Hi and welcome to True Crime, a channel dedicated to the dark underworld of criminal activity carried out by gangsters, mobsters, cartel leaders, and others. In today's video, we will be exploring the most brutal act of a Mexican clown. Let's get started. Step right up, folks, and step into the world of irrational fear. Have you ever had a phobia that you just couldn't explain? Well, get ready to add another one to your list, the fear of clowns. While popular culture has long depicted these painted performers as playful and jovial, recent depictions in media have taken a decidedly darker turn. From the twisted Pennywise in Stephen King's It to the manic Joker in DC Comics, clowns have become the stuff of nightmares. But what if I told you that the source of this fear was not just the product of our imagination, but a reality that exists in the world around us? Enter the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or CJNG, a violent and ruthless criminal organization that has been terrorizing Mexico for over a decade. They make their rivals, including the infamous Sinaloa cartel and even Pablo Escobar's blood empire, look like amateurs. But what sets the CJNG apart from their competition is their army of evil clowns. That's right, you heard me correctly. These are not the kind of clowns you want to hire for your child's birthday party. No, these clowns talk their rival cartel members to death and film their gruesome deeds. It's hard to fathom that something like this could be happening in the real world, but it's a fact. So, if you thought your fear of clowns was irrational before, just wait until you see what's out there. The CJNG's twisted carnival of horrors will make you think twice before you ever consider setting foot in a circus again. And who knows, maybe the next time you see a clown, you'll wonder what kind of dark secrets they might be hiding behind that painted smile. Get ready to hear a chilling tale that will make your blood run cold. This is the story of Fabian Urbino Morales and his sick clown army, and it all starts with a man named Nemesis, also known as El Mencho. Born in July of 1996, he grew up in poverty on an avocado farm with his family. In the 1980s, he illegally immigrated to the United States, but his penchant for petty crimes led to his deportation. Desensitized to violence and always in need of quick cash, El Mencho joined the Millennial Cartel. But as the cartel slowly disintegrated into small factions, El Mencho decided to strike out on his own. He formed his criminal organization, initially calling it Los Torcidos, or the Twisted Ones. Looking back, perhaps that name was more fitting than anyone realized at the time. In 2009, El Mencho founded the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or CJNG. This organization is responsible for countless deaths on both sides of the border, and they have become known for their twisted methods of torture and execution. Hold on tight, because this story is about to take you on a wild ride. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel has taken their fight to the next level, shooting down a military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade. The DEA is now offering a whopping $10 million for any information leading to the arrest of the Mexican drug kingpin known as El Mencho. Inspired by the militarized structure of the notorious Los Zetas cartel, El Mencho took it to the next level. He armed thousands of violent men with massive rifles, army tanks, and grenades. But that wasn't enough for the CJNG leader. In July, footage emerged of the CJNG convoy. These gunmen call themselves the Elite Group, and they pledge allegiance to El Mencho himself. Armed with assault rifles that have grenade launchers attached to the barrel, heavy machine guns, and even a .50 caliber sniper rifle, the CJNG is not to be messed with. They rule by fear, kidnapping anyone who stands in their way. Sometimes it's rival cartels, but other times it's police officers and even innocent civilians. This is a story of power, corruption, and the lengths that people will go to maintain it. The CJNG is a force to be reckoned with, and they will stop at nothing to ensure that they remain in control. As you read this story, you may find yourself looking over your shoulder, wondering if they are watching, waiting, and planning their next move. The world of drug cartels is a dark and twisted one, where money and power reign supreme and human life is but a mere afterthought. Among the many ruthless figures that operate within it is a man known as El Mencho, the leader of the CJNG cartel in Mexico. But unlike other cartel bosses who rely solely on military might and organized structures, El Mencho takes things to a whole new level by recruiting the absolute worst of the worst in Mexico. One such recruit is Fabian Urbino Morales, also known as El Payaso, which means the clown in Spanish. Morales was a former circus clown who traded in his colorful suit for guns, machetes, and knives, but he kept his clown mask. He worked for the Los Metros Cartel, a smaller fraction of the Gulf Cartel that operated from Reynosa at the border with Texas. Morales quickly rose to the ranks of Los Metros and brought a new level of psychopathic violence to the gang. He and his henchmen all wore the same horrible clown mask, and their methods of dealing with rival cartel members were incredibly gruesome. El Mencho saw Morales and his gang in action, beating their rivals in gasoline drums and even flipping them alive, and he knew that Morales would make a great captain. El Mencho recruits only the very worst people around, and with Morales and his gang on board, the CJNG quickly grew into the second biggest cartel in Mexico, second only to El Chapo and El Mayo's notorious Sinaloa cartel. But what makes El Mencho's rise to power particularly interesting is that his beginnings lie with avocados. The economical power behind the character Jalisco started with avocado farmers who slowly but surely moved into producing chemical precursors to make drugs like fentanyl. It's like a modern-day Breaking Bad story, except with avocados instead of meth. Needless to say, it's impossible to rule a cartel this big single-handedly, so El Mencho set out to recruit smaller cartel bosses to act as managers for various areas that the CJNG spread out to. Slowly but surely, the CJNG recruited the whole Los Metros cartel and engulfed them into their own, becoming a force to be reckoned with in the drug cartel world. Fabian Morales, also known as El Payaso, was a man who turned his back on the innocence of childhood and embraced the life of a cold-blooded killer. As he climbed the ranks of the CJG cartel, Morales became one of the most feared men in Mexico. With El Mencho's encouragement, he and his henchmen donned clown masks to instill terror in their victims. They were known for their gruesome and sadistic methods of dealing with rival cartel members, including burning them alive in gasoline drums. As the CJNG grew in power, Morales became one of its trusted commanders. He was a true monster with a penchant for torture and a complete disregard for human life. His brutality was captured on video and spread across the internet, a warning to anyone who dared to cross the CJNG. The infamous Cuero Agua video, in which a rival cartel member is tortured and mocked by Morales and his henchmen, is one of the most disturbing things you could ever witness. It's hard to fathom how someone like Morales could exist, someone who finds pleasure in causing unspeakable pain. But the reality is that the CJG cartel and its soldiers are a product of a broken system where poverty, corruption, and violence are the norm. It's a reminder that we need to do better as a society to ensure that no child grows up to become a monster like El Payaso. The CJNG's reign of terror was finally coming to an end, as the police were making significant progress in securing their power, territory, and trafficking routes. The cartel had made violence a means to an end, and it was becoming increasingly dangerous in the age where everything can be shared and watched online. Despite the blatant displays of violence by the CJNG, the police had struggled to bring them to justice. However, in October 2019, Fabian Morales, the trusted man of Elemento, was finally arrested after a huge ambush on the police that claimed the lives of 13 officers. But this time, the police used the ambush as a perfect context to launch their operation, leading to the arrest of Morales and his henchmen. Interestingly enough, this was the same sting operation that ended the life of La Katrina, the hit squad commander, who had an extreme thirst for blood and had given the order for the October ambush. But despite her demise, El Payaso, Morales' brother, remained at large, and he was reportedly a former military man and member of the CJNG Delta Group. The CJNG's grip on power was slipping, and the police were slowly but surely taking back control. El Jaguar, once just a regular circus clown, became a member of the CJNG long before El Payaso joined the notorious cartel. Perhaps it was Jaguar who convinced his younger brother to join, or perhaps they were both raised in a violent world where death was commonplace and the law of the land was to kill or be killed. This is no excuse for the atrocities they committed, but it's a sad reality that such circumstances exist. If you heard this story in a movie, you might think it was far-fetched. But the fact that this happens in real life is deeply troubling. Now, Fabian Morales, also known as El Payaso, is serving a life sentence in prison. He will likely never see the outside world again, for he lacks the wealth and authority of El Chapo. Yet, his legacy lives on. There are still evil clowns out there inflicting pain and suffering on innocent people, carrying on the twisted teachings of their former leader. The CJNG is at the height of its power, responsible for a third of the drugs entering the United States by land and sea. The war between the Sinaloa cartel and the CJNG, along with the authorities trying to bring them to justice, has terrorized Mexico for more than a decade. The war on drugs is at its worst, and it seems like the cartels have infiltrated the government. They create chaos and then negotiate with local politicians, holding the people hostage. It's a small victory that Fabian Morales is behind bars, but it's a sign that the authorities haven't given up. With time, perhaps the kingpins and psychopathic commanders will be arrested or eliminated, and the violence will decrease. Young people will be less tempted to join the cartels, and Mexico can begin to heal. Thank you for watching another amazing video from our true crime team. Like, comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned to our next real-life true crime video.